Sparky Coach podcast time. Crowie, Cam, coming to you from the wonderful Northern Rivers.
Oh, the gorgeous Northern Rivers. Home is where the heart is.
It's nice.
Home is where the rivers are.
We are going to have a yarn today around transparency. And we're not talking about like not having your windows tinted or closing your curtains, transparency. We're talking about transparency around communication transparency.
What do you mean about closing the windows transparency?
All I could think of was like someone looking in through the window.
Oh, okay. Like a horror movie.
Mate, yeah, or just a creeper.
Oh, let's move on.
That came to mind, but anyway.
So Father's Day the other day, right? I'm up with Jasper about 6, usually. So me and Jasper wake up together.
6 a.m. for the crow man.
It's an early start for us. Usually it's Jasper's up at 6:30 to 7. Anyway, so Elle and Phoenix wander out of bed like teenagers between 7:30 and 9. So me and Jasper have some time together, right? So, playing Lego and classic morning coffee, got to poo, of course. So go.
There should have been a warning on this, hey. Sorry, guys.
Is that a language warning?
No, just like another poo story warning. This is the second poo story warning poo story in 8 weeks.
It happens every day to everyone.
Not denying that. It's just remarkable that you've got so many stories associated with it.
All right. So, classic kids.
I'm intrigued.
You're pooing with the door open, right? So I'm doing a poo and minding my own business, doing my business, right? And I leave the door open so Jasper can sort of walk in. And Elle wakes up early and just like walks straight through and we're just having this like full-blown conversation and doing a poo. And it's something as an 18, 19-year-old you couldn't fathom. But when you've been together for 20 years, there's a certain level of openness, transparency, certain level of factor that happens. I mean, who can articulate? Has that happened to you?
Yeah, no, I can relate to it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so there's judgment?
No, there's no judgment at all. This has gone down a path that I didn't think we'd be going down today, but I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, I'm just thinking about...
What are we chatting about?
We're chatting about openness, transparency, and pooing, right? No, we're chatting about how much is too much information. Mm-hmm. What is too much eye contact when you're on the toilet? We got there. How much is too much sharing and when you should shut the door and when you shouldn't? And I want to sort of share about, this is a really common thing that happens. I remember getting this email one day, right? And that was from one of my top staff members. I think he was getting paid X amount at that point. I said X deliberately. But we said, I think he was getting paid something. Anyway, so what he'd done was he'd kind of...
We can confirm that Crowie paid staff.
Yeah, in X's, in noughts and crosses. Anyway, so I was... Yeah, anyway, so he basically had got around to everyone and was talking to everyone. He knew what everyone was earning and he knew that he was the top paid and he was also running a couple of jobs. So basically he'd worked out what we were charging the end user. In this case, he kind of handled 3 of our large builders and there was a portion of maybe 50-50 cost plus the quote kind of thing. And I get this email one day and it says, hey, just want to just after some more money, considering you're charging out, I think we're charging out like, $100, something like that. You're charging out 100 and you are paying me 45 and there's $55 there. Where is it?
Not X's anymore?
There's no X's. I just changed my tune. And he's like, where's the 55 plus you're making this off this person, this off this, plus the materials. And the email just was like pretty, I was going to say passive aggressive, but it was more aggressive than passive.
It sounds aggressive.
Yeah. And anything in an email sounds worse as it is. So it just... Was
it in capitals? Capitals.
It was a hybrid combination of capital to lowercase, capital lowercase, like a teenage girl in the early 2000s. But
on Nokia?
Yeah,
interrupted you playing Snake.
Yeah.
Like, I was about to break a record.
And you had to do it. You had to erase a message to get a new message. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, it was wow. And it's just the lack of understanding of business costs and everything was bewildering. So, okay, couple of moments here to go through. Receive this aggressive email. Don't fight fire with fire. Like, I don't like to put anything emotional in writing because writing is there forever. I could pull up the email and read it to you now if I wanted to. So, writing stays forever. So be really careful what you put in writing, whether it's a text or an email or.
So you've let go?
I haven't let it go yet. It's printed out on my wall. But it was a good eye opener because I was watching it, and it was at a point of business where we'd grown pretty dramatically from sort of maybe from 3 to 8 within a 12-month period or 18-month period. And I realized I'd left the guys out of rates and
out of the loop.
And anyway, so I ended up talking to him. I went in person. If you've got to confront these situations, in person trumps everything every day of the week because there's tone. You can see my body language and that kind of stuff and read that stuff. Anyway, so I caught up with him. Yeah. There's a cost to running a business. Anyway, so I was just caught up with him and I was like, I get what you're saying, but you're missing a lot of stuff here. The business costs me sort of $35 to $40 an hour to run. And here's why. You've got your accounting, you've got your bookkeeping, you've got your administration staff, you've got my wage and off that, you've got your vehicles, you've got your tolls, you've got your petrol, you've got your maintenance, you could list 25 things off the top of your head. I was like, who do you think's paying for that? And I was ironing out. And at that point, I was like, I might let these guys in a bit. So I fully let them in. We had this in-house staff meeting where I was like, hey, this is what the business costs, and this is what we're hoping to profit, and callbacks as well. You're covering basically everything for those. And it just made me, and as I let everyone in, it was like, I'm not driving a Lamborghini, and I wouldn't get one even if I could afford it, to be honest. But like, it was just really, really good to let everyone in. And once I let everyone in, they were like, oh, cool, we get it now. And we could actually just move on. So when we talk about like how much do you let people into, or your staff into your numbers, and what's a healthy amount of knowledge for people to have, and what's crossing the boundary into unhealthy.
Yeah. So I think there obviously needs to be an element of transparency around certain topics. And look, it's going to be each their own. And I think there's also a depth of how far you dive into that conversation as well. So I think it's really important to let people know that, it costs things to begin with, or like, hey, even just identifying the cost of a vehicle. Like, for example, like, hey, just so you know, that van there, that's $50,000 van. It costs $10,000 to rack it out. It costs a further, $3,000 just to get some tools and bits and pieces in there, and then probably around another, depending on what type of work you're doing, costs another $2, $3, $4, $5,000 in materials or other ancillary bits and pieces. So just so people get like a bit of an understanding.
20-inch rims are cheap?
Just so people get a bit of an understanding of where the costs lie, or like, hey, just so you know, that particular piece of plant or tool that we have for you, or for us as a team. So it makes our life easier. Can we just make sure we look after it? This is the process around like packing it up and putting it together, because that's worth $1,000. It makes our life easy. Happy to have it there, but just so you're aware. And like, I probably personally don't like to make a pointed effort of like, this is what it costs, so this is what you need to do. I think it's more of just like being aware of where costs go or where money goes, sort of thing. Even discussing around what the running costs of a vehicle are and things like that. I like the vehicle thing. I feel like it's a real appreciation sort of thing, because I'm flexible and pretty not loose, but like my boys, when they get the van, like it's theirs, like sort of thing. They can just cruise around and do what they need to do.
Doing laps on Maney?
Doing Manies, 100% they do Manies.
Where's the Maney and the Goldie for you?
Oh, you'd have to think the Maney, probably the Esplanade in Surface, or cut through Cavill Ave, maybe, sort of thing. But I don't know. It's all changed so much nowadays, because the epicenter of the GC used to be Surface. Like, you used to go get obliterated in Cavill Ave and check out Sin City and the Bedroom. There was the what's it called? The Surface Beer Garden up the stairs there. Funny story. It's like what is it? It's probably like 10 flights of stairs, landing 10 flights of stairs. So it's up on a second story of it. It overlooks Cavill Ave. Like, there's zero view. It's just a beer garden, but just a great place to have a beer when you're 18. Funny story. My mate used to work there as a glassy, and he's got millions of stories. But one particular night, one bloke tried to fight the bouncers on the way out, and so they kicked him out, and then he came back in. So this one bouncer just threw him from the top stairs all the way to the bottom, and the dude was obviously on something and also drunk, and then got back up and just wanted to fight again, like insane. But
how were you from getting thrown down the stairs?
I was
right?
fine. I've got a slight twitch, but I'm pretty good now.
Nothing's wrong with me.
But look, that was just probably one of just had to tick that off the list to make sure that I've been kicked out of that particular establishment in Surfers Paradise. And I can see you laughing, but the fact of the matter is that I have been kicked out of probably every establishment in Surfers Paradise and Broadbeach.
Just your photos on the wall everywhere.
No. I used to fall asleep. That's pretty much it.
Really?
Just get too late in the evening and I fall asleep.
What's late in the evening now for you?
Forever? Anything past 12 o'clock's always been late for me. Now it's like 9 o'clock. It's late for
9's
me.
late.
Yeah, really late for me. It's too much for me.
But back to transparency.
And don't try and take a fake ID while you're doing the manies up and down in the electrical company van in your local neighbourhood. But back to transparency. So I've done it. Have I just done a Crowie? I think I've just done a Crowie.
You've tangented more than me.
Yes.
I've
always wanted to do that. So
on back to the van situation, I was a big believer that the staff should be able to drive the vans anywhere because I didn't want them having their 1994 Hiace in the driveway ready to go for their own private jobs. So that I was like, if I can just give them a van and tell them to drive it anywhere, and I was happy to use a petrol card whenever they needed to, and I wasn't going to count kilometers or anything like that. It's because I didn't want them to have their own private car.
I think
it's a huge saving.
Element of trust too in that, I think, as well. Like if you're willing to be transparent, like what we're sort of talking about, so you're open and transparent and be like, hey, look, if you can do this, these are the only requirements. Like you can use it wherever you want, but hey, if you're going to be driving from the Gold Coast to Sydney, maybe just give me the heads up on that sort of thing. And you can want to do manies in like the Shire down in front of Northies in Cronulla to match up with your manies on the Gold Coast. Anyway, I'm just digressing.
I was never a manie.
Neither was I.
Never a manie guy. Sounds like you know a lot about them.
Well, look, I do know a thing or two. I'm a good listener. I'm a very good listener.
Okay.
But being transparent about that also too builds trust amongst people because they have an understanding, and it's like, hey, if they're more willing to then come to you and be like, hey, mate, I'm just going to, is it all right if I just use the van on the weekend to throw a fan in Jan's place? And I'm like, yes, you can because you've saved me a phone call to Jan. No, but like they have friends, they have family, all those sorts of bits and pieces.
Yeah. I think with transparency, with everything, there's an element of overshare, I think, definitely, and you've got to gauge that. But there's an element that people need to know. So specifically when we go through the efficiency calculators that we've built with our members, I'm encouraging them to let their staff members in, show them the spreadsheet, show them what a difference an hour makes. You got like $100 an hour and you miss 1 hour a day, $500 a week, $20,000 a year. And it's like $25,000 a year. It's not really that hard to miss an hour a day. If you underquote it, you leave early, you can't get a hold of Jan in the middle of the day, like insert one of 100 reasons there. So really want to encourage everyone to let your staff in as much as you're comfortable and make sure that they're aware that the business has running costs, the business has goals, the business has aspirations. We've got dreams, like we'd love to buy a commercial property one day. We want to have a gym in there. We want to have a treadmill. We want to have some beers in the fridge. People still use treadmills. I'm assuming they do.
Gyms are still around.
Gyms are still a thing.
So I'm still think they,
it's still a thing. And so let them in. And I think it can really benefit your business because once people are involved, you can partner with them to push forward. And if they're aware that you're up to 12 o'clock at night quoting most nights, and let them in on that as well. Like business is not as easy as it looks sometimes, and
certainly not as glamorous.
It's not as glamorous, and the fact that you're able to
shout out.
Yeah, I love that song. The fact that you're able to sort of buy that house, or like there was 5 to 8 years of sweat that went into that, and so you should be earning more than your general standard punter employee.
Yeah, and I think also on that too is that by sharing some of the goals or some of the, I guess, projections or trajectory that you want the business to take, also gets people on board and gives them the opportunity to highlight that, hey, like there's an opportunity to be a project manager potentially. There's an opportunity to be an estimator. There's an opportunity to be a leading hand. There's also a career path potentially also as well. It's not just I'm going to be an electrician forever and ever. It gives people that ability as well, so you can get people on board in that sense.
Yeah, I hope you like climbing in roofs because you'll be doing it forever. Yeah. So let your staff in as much as you're comfortable, but also assess that there's an element they have to know. They have to know efficiency. They have to know billable hours. They have to know what's allowed on jobs. And get partner with people on the journey. It's my closing statement. What's your closing statement?
No, I like that, and probably echo your sentiment a little bit too. It can be also just the really simple things about being transparent, open with, hey, this is where you find the materials to order. This is where you can find this piece of information. And by doing so, yes, you're letting them in to see what we pay for that double PowerPoint, or what you pay for that light fitting, or what the margin is on it, and all those sorts of things. But it also is part of the process of letting go also as well. So it will also benefit you long term, because if you were just a closed book and hold on to every little thing, you then become that overwhelmed, stressed out owner that no one wants to work for, because there's no one else to share the load with.
Exactly. So let people in, partner with the journey, and rock and roll. See you guys.